Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we want to have another look at ArcoLinux. And I was told that ArcoLinuxD in the latest release, which just came out the other day, is absolutely fabulous. And just in the heart of what ArcoLinux is, I have not even looked at it yet. We're going to look at it as I record this video. So we'll do a little bit of editing here and there where we need to. But what I wanted to basically start out by saying is ArcoLinux is really designed to teach you how to install Arch the right way. This is why when I first looked at their site, it's just like there's a lot of mess going on over there. And it seems to be getting a little bit better, but the reason is they're rolling it out in different phases. So there's the ArcoLinux download, there's the ArcoLinuxD, there's the ArcoLinuxB. These are all designed for different purposes on your different journey through learning how to install Arch, which I am not a major expert in. If you haven't followed this channel much before, my task isn't to learn how to do all of the little odds and ends. My task is to learn how to use Linux as a user so we can get real production done in the various parts of our life. In my case, I am a web designer, developer, and a book publisher. And so I use Linux as a tool to do my websites, to do my book production, to get things out, to basically get my real work done, not to tinker around with. And so something like ArcoLinux, I'm not the target audience for. So we'll go ahead and start that out. This is why I like Linux Mint so much, because I can install it very easily. It's so simple to install. I don't have to think a lot about it. I don't have a lot of maintenance on it, and I can actually use it and get my work done. But if you are in the market to want to learn more about how to install and run Arch Linux, which is a very, very good thing to learn how to do, ArcoLinux is probably a good place for you to start. So they have various phases. So phase one is just provides three desktops and one installation. Learn how to work with the three different XFCE, OpenBox, i3, and then you just hit the download button. So if you come on over to the download link here, we have ArcoLinux, which is the one which has three desktop environments. You have ArcoLinuxD and B are more of your learning further out. So over here, learn how to install XFCE, OpenBox, or i3 on ArcoLinux. It will prepare you for the next phase. Basically, phase 2, 3, and 4 are preparing you to learn how to install Arch Linux. So ArcoLinuxD is the step to do that. And we actually have a separate website over to ArcoLinuxD.com. And this is where one of my early criticisms is. It's like, we're on ArcoLinux, now we have the ArcoLinuxD website, which has all these different phases. So ArcoLinuxD is really that learning place. Then we have phase 3 is utilizing the ArcoLinuxD build. You can install a variety of different desktop environments on it. We have a phase 4 is how to build your own ISO. This is where we jump from D up here, ArcoLinuxD, up to ArcoLinuxB, where you're actually doing all of your different builds. And then on to 5 and 6 is just kind of walking you through the whole Arch install. So being I'm not a beginner at Linux, obviously. I'm not a super fine-tuned expert either. I wanted to go ahead and look at this from the perspective of installing this for the very first time. So I downloaded the ArcoLinuxD, which was just released for when I'm recording this about 4 days ago. And I've been told that it is an absolutely excellent place to start. And so we're going to go ahead and have a look at this. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the desktop view and we'll see what we get. Okay, so we are booted up here. So the option here to run gparted or run Calamaris. We should, in theory, be able to run Calamaris, but there is a small bug with it, not within ArcoLinux, but within the installer itself, that sometimes I have found that it will fail on trying to partition the disks. So I'm just going to go ahead and run gparted and clear my disks right away. So we have unallocated space. We have Linux swap. We're going to go ahead and delete that one. Let's go ahead and delete this one, and then we're just going to create a new ext4 partition out of it with pretty much nothing on it. Go ahead and click the apply, let it do its thing, gparted is done. Now, if you're doing a more advanced custom install, you're going to want to set up your disk here, but Calamaris should be able to run and get everything set up for you automatically with that step. So over here, let's go ahead and click on through the installer. So we have a lot of options to pick from here. So we have Linux kernels without any NVIDIA. We have a standard rolling kernel, and we have an LTS. I generally like to use the LTS unless there's a very specific reason you need an absolute rolling kernel. I just found the LTS. In fact, when I'm running my ArcoLinux on Arch Labs, I could not even get it installed right with the rolling kernel, but I could with the LTS. So we're going to go with that. I don't have any NVIDIA here, so we're going to go ahead and skip that. Intel and AMD U code. I honestly do not recall exactly what these guys are, but it does deal with microcode. It's something you don't have to have installed, but it could help. We're going to go ahead and install the AMD since I'm using a Ryzen 5 processor. There's no Bluetooth on this computer, so we're going to skip Bluetooth support. This is not a laptop, so we're going to skip any laptop support. Network discovery, print support, Samba, sound, I want to have all of those. Again, if you're not planning on doing network sharing or printing, anything like that, go ahead and do that. So there's different login managers. I believe LightDM is the one that I'm most familiar with. Now, you have to be careful with whatever your desktop environment is. Some of them have certain login managers you should be using. I'm actually going to install Cinnamon. Now, this is my second time recording the video. I wanted to see what it was like installing with Deepin. I had some issues with it, which very well could be due to Deepin because there is some compatibility issues on Deepin. So I'm going to do Cinnamon just because it's the desktop I am most familiar with. So that's why I'm going to do that. If I were experimenting, I might do something else. So other items, let's see, we have accessories. Since I use my computer for book production and for website design, we're going to kind of install the packages I might use for that. So font manager, absolutely. We have themes get, we have variety XF burn. I don't really need any of those items. Let's go with development stuff. I might use Atom or Code. I generally use like Bluefish, which I'm not going to see in the listing here probably, so I'll just go ahead and install that afterwards. So let's just go ahead and throw these two on here for now. Okay, fonts. I'm just going to install all the fonts because publishing and production, yo. I'm not a gamer. Arco Meta Stream, I have no idea. I'm sorry, Arco Meta Steam. I'm guessing that's just Steam. I'm going to pass on that one. Graphics. I do use Blender, but it's large, so I'm not going to install it here. I'll do GIMP, Inkscape, and Krita. Yeah, those are just about as large as Blender, but oh well. Anyway, for fun, nah. Internet. Various internet-related tools. So I do use Thunderbird and Evolution. I use FileZilla. I use Firefox. And I use Chromium for various different things. That's pretty much all I'm going to need out of the internet group. Now, there's two LibreOffice, and they will conflict with each other. So Fresh is basically like a rolling, always the latest versions. Still will hold back your primary version, but will give you the security or the patch fixes and things. I generally prefer the Still because I don't want things jumping around like it could happen in Fresh. Under multimedia, let's see. Audacious, I use Audacity. Clementine's cool. Let's do that one. Okay, Handbrake occasionally. Kdenlive is what I use. I use OBS Studio, like, hey, even right now to record this. Simple Screen Recorder. I do use that one for some simpler screen recording items, and sometimes I do VLCs. Let's install that one there as well. Various themes. We have a couple of different theme options. Let's go with the Papyrus theme packs. Okay, I don't really think I'm going to need anything else. Who knows? And since we're doing Cinnamon, I can just go ahead and use the theming utilities there to download more over there. And let's see, utilities. Don't see any of those I specifically need to use on a regular basis. Since we are installing this in a VirtualBox, I'm going to install the VirtualBox LTS kernel. and I don't use WPS Office. So let's go ahead and skip that part. Find our location. That's good. Keyboard. That is good. And let's go ahead and just erase the disk. We can do swap with no Hibernate or swap with Hibernate. I found some systems will fail on me if I try and run it without swap. Cinnamon probably shouldn't, but just for the case, we're going to go ahead and run swap no Hibernate. I don't use hibernation personally. If you do use hibernation, go ahead and pick the with Hibernate. It's going to give you twice the swap partition. All right, let's call this guy ArcoLinux and set a super secret password that's definitely not 123. And then we can use the same password for the administrator of account. And everything looks good, so let's go ahead and set the install. Now, if Calamaris is going to fail because of partitioning, it's going to fail right at that point there. Since it has not failed on me, I'm just going to say, hey, seems to work good. So this will probably take some time. Let's see, it's 17, 18 right now, so we'll see how long it takes to install, and we'll be back with the video after that. Okay, so it looks like it took only about 9 minutes to install everything. I'm going to deselect the restart now. I find that most of your Arch systems, when you go to shut down, like if you just install it on a virtual machine and restart now, it doesn't kick the ISO out, and so it'll just reboot to the ISO again. So I was just deselect that guy, log the machine down entirely, just shut the whole thing down, and then manually kick out the ISO, and then reboot. And hopefully will actually boot correctly. I did not when I tried to install Deepin. Let's see what happens when we installed Cinnamon instead. So it looks like we're going to have a very similar problem. It just lands us on the login screen. So let's see if I can get into our light DM and get this guy booted up. So ArcoLinux, enter my super secret password. It's definitely not 123. First, we're going to try start X, and I guess that this is going to crash. Yes, it did. So we're going to do a sudo light DM. This hopefully should start light DM, and we should then be able to log in. So apparently the system's not going to boot. It's just sitting there with a black screen. So who knows? All right, so we rebooted into this guy, and despite having just installed everything, apparently it has lots of updates to do. So we just ran the update script to go ahead and install everything. Just your sudo pacman -$SYYU. We're running the updates. We're going to go ahead and update everything there, and then we're going to go ahead and see what else we might need to do to get this guy up and running. Okay, so after a little bit of working with the system here, I was actually able to get it to properly get booted up. And let's go ahead and walk through maybe what I did here. So I used a combination of some steps to install some scripts from the ArcoLinux website. And so what we ended up doing is installing everything as I did, and then what I ended up doing is running just a series of scripts. And I'll see if I can find the list of scripts and show you which ones did it. Now, it's not saving my my video settings here, so I did go ahead and reset the theming to be the full size there, but that's okay. That's something you won't have if you're not working inside of a virtual machine. So what I ended up doing is, if you head on over to their main website at ArcoLinux, after running all of the updates, like running everything, I ran the updates and then ended up cloning this guy. Now, so it's going to download a bunch of install scripts. I did not actually have to run all of them because most of the stuff I already had set up. So our print server's already set up. I'm guessing that my network servers are. So yeah, my network servers are set up, and it seems to be finding everything just fine. But I didn't actually have to go into all of those. What I don't know is, let's see if I can find that folder where those downloaded to, and hopefully I can show you what the scripts are. So I downloaded this guy here. This is the result of the Git. Of course, it was all in the terminal. And what I ended up doing is I did not set up all of them. I looked everything over and said, well, I've already set up most of this stuff. This is actually going to be a lot easier to do inside the terminal. Let me just go ahead and do that. All right, so these are the scripts that we had. I already had 0 done. I did set up the display manager 100. I set that one up. I already knew that the sound, Bluetooth, all this kind of stuff was set up and working correctly, so I didn't mess with any of those. I did run the fix microcode just in case that was causing some of the issue. I did run the auto login to allow me to log in, and that was pretty much all I did. I think that, and I tested each one of the scripts, the one that actually fixed it, I think, was the display manager and desktop. So maybe on the original install script, there's something that was not set up quite right. And so I had to go through and basically run this script here, whatever that is. So we could actually open that guy up and see what that's doing. Let's just display it. So this is what the script is doing. So it's going to be looking for display Pacman S, Light DM. It's going to set up the Light DM greeter. So probably these here were not set up right. So ArcoLinux Light DM greeter settings, I think that this was not set up on the installation. And so that's probably my best guess as to what happened. And then just enable the Light DM service. So these steps here were not done when I actually did the installation. So that seems to be the script that fixed it, but I also did run the auto login. I fixed the microcode error just in case that was a problem, and I didn't actually mess with anything else. So now we actually have a very nice Arch system set up here. It's running Cinnamon, a little ugly because, you know, outside of Linux Mint Cinnamon, Cinnamon tends to be a little ugly until you actually get in there and do the custom theming stuff, which I have whole videos about how to do that. But here's Evolution. We have our LibreOffice. We have our FileZilla, Firefox, Chromium installed. Pretty much nothing else though. So very nice setup. So I did have that one script error. I showed you how to fix that. Once that got set up, my network share is working right. So if I come over here, show you network. So everything there is working correctly. Everything else seems to be just fine. Here's the print server's working, although I'm not going to attempt to get my printer working because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't with Linux systems without fighting with it. Let's see what other desktop backgrounds we have available. We got that. Okay, we have some backgrounds available here. So some basic backgrounds. So very cool backgrounds. Of course, we can do our pictures. And let's see if there's actually any other themes already here that we could pick from. Probably not is my best guess, but we'll see. We'll see here. Okay, so we do have Arc Dark, Arc Darker. So we do have some nice themes to pick from here. Wow, I was actually not expecting to find this many themes to pick from. There's a dark. And okay, so we have this guy here. All right. So that's actually pretty good theming. I mean, I don't mind that theming at all. That's pretty good. So we do actually have some options here for theming. Icons, either love them or hate them. That's okay. I'm kind of neutral on them, honestly. So maybe it's not just love them or hate them, right? I don't like how that is small like that, but that's neither here nor there. Desktop settings. Let's turn on some icons here. Let's turn off that one. All right, so we have our icons there. So there we are. Very nice, usable system. Yeah, there were a couple little bugs in the install script, but overall, I think we got a pretty good system. And hey, there's ArcoLinux. Definitely not the easiest to set up, but It's not designed to be either. It's designed to be a teaching moment. So there's my thoughts on setting up ArcoLinuxD. We set this up with Cinnamon as well. Again, just go to the website, hit those installation scripts if there's some issues. It looks like it did not actually run the setup scripts to make Cinnamon work is what the issue was. So if anybody else is installing it and running into that same problem, that's what the issue was. So that seemed to fix everything. Thanks for coming along. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And that was just a cold walkthrough. Like I said, I didn't study anything. I didn't research anything. I just wanted to see, could we pull it off? Could we make it work? And we were able to get it running. So yay for ArcoLinuxD. Good learning experience. So thanks for coming along, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.